Hello, thanks for rejoining me. This is Catching It Early, and I am Lynn. If you're joining me for the first time, I would encourage you to go and check out the entire playlist. Perhaps start with the first video to orient you about what we are doing here. But in a nutshell, I'm documenting my personal journey with a neurological condition that is showing some likelihood of developing into something a little bit more serious down the road, namely Parkinson's disease or perhaps Lewy body dementia. I'm on the path, I'm sharing it in real time and inviting you to come along with me if you are also navigating this very confusing and sometimes maddening sea of misinformation, lack of information, misinformation, confusion, frustration, hope, joy, and everything in between. I'm here for it. I'm here for you, and I need you here with me. So thanks for being here. Today, I am specifically addressing people who might be here for the first time, more particularly people who, like me a year and a half ago, have just recently been diagnosed with REM Sleep Behavior Disorder or perhaps any other preliminary diagnosis that is pointing toward these more serious conditions, and you're freaked out because you've just learned that something you thought might have been benign may actually be an indicator of something much more serious, and your head is spinning and you don't know what to make of this information. I was there just slightly over a year and a half ago. You'll see that if you go back and look at the first video in this series. It's just 11 minutes long, but you'll see that on my face and in my words, like what in the world just happened to my life. So I'm talking to you, and I'm talking to you because I see every week new people showing up in some of the social media support groups that I belong to who are here saying, wait a minute, I just got this diagnosis. What does it mean? What's going to happen to me? When is it going to happen to me? How bad is it going to get? What do I do with this? And I remember that feeling like it was yesterday. And some days it feels like it was just yesterday. So what I want to do is let you know that here from this perspective, let's see, it would be maybe 17 months on in this journey. I have a perspective that I did not have then. And I still have a great heart for those of you who are just a step or two behind me on the path. And I'm hoping that this exercise that I've done might help make sense of it. Even though I've been at the research and the video making and the emotional roller coaster for that much time, there are still days that I just say, just break it down for me, like give it to me like I'm 5. I want a condensed, concise version of, I get what's going on in my body, I get what's going on in my brain, but really in the simplest terms, what exactly can I expect and when can I expect it to happen? That question doesn't go away, and it doesn't go away because we don't really have the answer, as you'll see, but there's hope. So please stick with me. Even if you are further along or have reconciled some things or have more information than I do, I'm hoping that there's something here for all of you to kind of relate to as we go. And there's a wealth of information. It might be a long video. I'm going to try to trim it and post as much as I can to keep it concise, since that was my original goal. But I am going to be doing a whole lot of off-camera reading because I'm going to be sharing with you exactly what the results of my lengthy conversation and ongoing conversation with ChatGPT was about my specific circumstances, and then the more generalized, what is the state of the science today and what can other people in similar situations expect. Okay, so I recently got a paid membership to ChatGPT because I was using it in my artwork. I use it to create reference images for some projects that I'm doing, but I'm finding that I can also use it to do an awful lot of medical research. I'm a full-time caregiver for my mother, and so putting her information in to try to get a better picture of things that have been kind of confusing even to some of her doctors has yielded some really great results that have given me wonderful fodder to take into those doctor visits and say, listen, I've done some research and these are the things I think we should be paying attention to. What do you think? So it certainly isn't a replacement. Nothing I say here should be taken as gospel. But if you use AI correctly, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to do that, you can use it as a tool to supplement what you're trying to accomplish in your life, and it can be very powerful and very effective. Don't think that I'm not aware of all of the concerns and worries and uh, caveats that come along with using AI. And I very strongly encourage you not to take a cowboy approach to working with it. You should be measured, you should be careful, you should be intelligent about what you ask and how you ask it. And to help you with that, what I am doing in the description box, so please check that information. There's a lot of information there today for you. Is I've given you a link to another YouTube video from someone who is talking about a method for how to compose a prompt. She's using ChatGPT as her model as well, but this will work in whatever your AI of choice is. And it's a relatively brief video that just says, listen, here are some rules and guidelines for how to compose a prompt in order to get what you want back out of the system. And we need to speak its language, sadly, in order to get it to speak ours, so to speak. So please check the description box for that video before you get started like typing away. But I'm going to share with you exactly what my process was and what my results were. Hopefully that information will be enough for some people. But if you want to go and put your own data in and get your own answers and perhaps compare it to what you're hearing here today, this video is about using technology and the tools that are available to us to kind of cut through the mire. Because let's face it, any of us who've just been researching on the internet, we can get lost very quickly. We can get overwhelmed. We can get confused. And I found that this was a great way to kind of bring things into focus. And that's what I'm hoping it'll accomplish for you today. So the first thing I did was I gave it a little bit of information. I say, here's what I want. I want you to use specific sources, respected medical sources, and I included naturopathic sources. I asked it to be as unbiased as possible, to not respond to any perceived preferences or biases that it might pick up in me, and just to give me the most current, most reliable information that it could. And that becomes necessary because AI will sometimes tell you what you want to hear. It'll sometimes guess, but it won't tell you it's guessing unless you ask it to tell you if it's guessing. So I gave it a little bit of information and I started small. I wanted it to be kind of a cumulative effect. So I put in the results of my sleep study and my DAT scan that I got at the PPMI study. The sleep study was done locally. And I had those documents in PDF form, and the AI was able to take that document. I could upload it into ChatGPT and it could read those results as they were delivered to me by those medical institutions. That on its own was something I could not do on Google. So I said, here's my age, here's my gender. I want an overall analysis using these respected sources, and don't give me any crap. Give it to me straight. And I'm going to read to you exactly what it told me. Being in the PPMI study with REM Sleep Behavior Disorder and a reduced sense of smell puts you in what researchers call prodromal or early risk phase for conditions like Parkinson's disease and dementia with Lewy bodies, but not everyone progresses. And when they do, it is often slow and variable. Okay, that's very concise. It went on to, I'm not sharing with you absolutely everything. It would take forever. I've condensed things down. I've left things out. It gives a lot more information, but I'm giving you the pearls. When to take action, it's offering me when should I follow up with my neurologist if I notice specific symptoms like stiffness and slowness, motor symptoms. And prodromal, if you don't already know, basically means before you've developed symptoms that can be clinically diagnosed as either one of those conditions. There are some very specific criteria that you need to meet before a doctor will give you a diagnosis. That doesn't mean we don't have the disease. It also doesn't mean that we do. So it's telling me if you notice any of these things, here's what you should do next. And it gave me a list of things I should be looking for. Am I falling? Am I having motor symptoms? Do I notice any changes in my thinking, memory, or visual perception? And I said, visual perception. What's that about? I don't know anything about that. So another nice thing about AI that I couldn't do on Google previously is I can drill down from there. So I said, what kind of visual changes should I be looking for? What does that mean? And the answer said, well, it's a very in-depth answer. There were a lot of changes that could be something that we should consult our neurologist about if we notice them. For me, the ones that were relevant was something called reduced contrast sensitivity. And they broke that down to say, am I having an increasing difficulty seeing in dim lighting? I am noticing that. Do I have trouble distinguishing objects that are similar in color? For instance, two shades of the same color, like gray on gray. Can I see that difference? I'm not having that issue. Has night driving become more challenging? And I would say I would say since COVID, because this is when I first noticed it, when we were on lockdown, no one was going out at night. And what that meant was that I wasn't driving at night. And when the fog lifted and we all reemerged into the world and I started driving around, I started to notice that as it got to be dusk, I was having a noticeably harder time reading highway signs that were coming. I had to get much closer to them for them to come into focus. And I just felt that I couldn't see well in twilight. And then once it got dark, I was finding that I was getting anxiety and sometimes fear and saying, I don't think I can drive at night anymore. Well, I'm not ready to lay that down. I have way too much to do to not be able to drive at night. That said, I'm really not driving at night very much anymore because I don't have that confidence. At the time that I first noticed it, I attributed it to COVID and to having not driven in a long time. Oh, I'll get used to it. But that has not changed. I find that the lights are more dazzling and that if I don't know the road very well, if it's someplace I have not been many times before, I don't have confidence that I know where the boundaries are, that I know what I could do or that my reaction time would be adequate. I don't love that feeling. I don't know how much of that is anxiety and how much of that is an actual visual change. But I noted it because it seemed to fit the criteria, and I'm in a monitoring state on that right now. Other things that it mentioned, and it went into detail, but I won't right now, were depth perception or spatial judgment. Can you, if you go to touch something, can you touch it correctly, or does it not seem to be where you think? Are you hesitating on stairs or curbs or uneven ground? That kind of thing. Slower visual processing. When you look at something, does it take you a minute to identify what is it that I'm looking at? Visual misinterpretations. This is something that was relevant to me. Not hallucinations, but basically brief, what they're calling misreads. So you think you saw a person or an animal in your peripheral vision, but it's actually an object or a pattern like a coat on a chair momentarily might look like a person. Your brain says person, and then you go, oh, coat on a chair. That has been happening to me a lot. And I think it happens to most people from time to time, but it's happening to me, I would say several times a day, where out of my peripheral vision, I will identify something enough for my brain to put a name to it, even though I know that's not what it is. And when I turn, I can see that it is something different. So it's a misread, not a hallucination. So well-formed visual hallucinations, of course, are the next thing that happens much later in the disease and not really as common in the early stages. And that's fully formed, very realistic. There is a person sitting at your table that you know isn't there, but you're going to have a conversation anyway. Or you see small children, or you see animals. Sometimes people see animals in the trees and things like that. It's very commonly children and animals. That usually is a marker of a much more advanced stage of the disease, but it's on the list if you noticed anything like that. And then changes in visual attention, which is like problems tracking a moving object or losing your place while you're reading, that kind of thing. Visual changes. It's something I've seen on lists of symptoms in the past and just kind of glossed over because it didn't go into any detail. So this was my opportunity to say, what do you mean by that? And get that information. So if you're wondering, I am hoping that that was helpful to you. And then it offered me a very simple, low stress self-check routine. You can do this monthly to notice patterns over time. The goal is for this to actually take your stress level down a little bit. If you're worried about, is anything changing? If you're one of those people that every time something is different, you're hyper aware of anything that happens in you. Is that it? Is that it? Is this a progression? And full disclosure, I have been there more than once where I'm overanalyzing and double checking and worrying about every little nuance that I can notice. Well, here's a way that you can kind of wrangle that by using this checklist and giving yourself once a month. Once a month, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to go through this checklist, and then I'm going to monitor my results. And that way I can put it out of my mind for the rest of the month. Best case scenario. So it actually gave me this list, and I said, hey, will you put that list in a PDF for me so that I can use it? And it gave me this checklist. And it is not just to check for visual changes, but also cognitive changes. And it's, let's see, 8 little exercises to do and keep an eye on it. And if you're noticing a progression, that would be a time to take your results to your neurologist. But in the meantime, it's just a good way to monitor. The important thing to know here is it's not, oh my gosh, something changed. It's noticing a progression or a pattern over time that is important. So don't take this once and then run to the doctor and decide that you have Parkinson's disease or dementia. Calm down. It's a year and a half for me now. I'm calming down. Maybe you're having more of a struggle than I am, but there's a lot of hope coming in this video, so please stay with me. If you want to take advantage of this form, I wanted to make it available to you, and in order to do that most easily, I put up a little free Google website. Just for me in general, I took down all my websites when I got this diagnosis because I thought I wasn't going to be doing a public facing thing any longer. So I got rid of all the stuff that I was paying a fortune for. I've been making videos and having websites and social media for a very long time, and I was just over it. But I put up this little free site really as a way to make some of these forms and documents that are coming in future videos, as well as these, available to you. So again, in the description box, you're going to find a link to the page where that assessment lives. You can read it directly on your computer. It's probably going to be tough to read on a phone, but it is there. And then at least on Chrome, when you're looking at that page, in the upper right corner, there's a little icon that you can tap that will allow you to download it if you want to save it to your computer, print it out, and use it for yourself. And there's another form there as well that I will also link to below. And it's just something I've used in the past. If you're a form person, if you're somebody who likes to monitor, because monitoring is a healthy thing to do. I'm not using this one currently, but I have used it in the past. It's another form. It's one that I made myself, and it's just a way to track some vitals. It's got columns for a date and time, a weight, your blood pressure, systolic and diastolic, your pulse, and then columns for depression and anxiety level rated on a scale of 1 to 10. And then there's a column for symptoms and a column for circumstances with some guidelines that say symptoms would be things that are related to these illnesses, like pain, constipation, diarrhea, headache, poor sleep, things that you've seen on lists in your study that might be relevant. And then under circumstances, was it a high stress day? Were you ill that day? Were you very sedentary? Were you on an empty stomach when you logged these things? Just notes. And you can use this or not use this. It's just a way to track it. I was using it for a while when my blood pressure was running high. Then it stopped running high and I stopped tracking. That's just a tool I'm making available to you if it's something that you'd like. Some people love to fill in little boxes and spreadsheets, and sometimes I'm one of them. I had another one where I was tracking all of my sleep events every single day. I would wake up in the morning. I would use my sleep app that got all the recordings. I would put down all of the details about what time things happened. I would upload the audio file into the spreadsheet, and I had it all tracked on a daily basis. And that just became cumbersome and unnecessary because basically, if I'm going to talk to a neurologist, I'm going to say, this happens all the time. And after I made my first video where I included several audio, it wasn't the first, I think it was the third video in this series where I actually offered to you some of the greatest hits of things that I have done in my sleep. I didn't feel the need to track it quite so closely anymore, or to pull it up in the video editor and try to equalize the sound for you, because the app doesn't make it very listenable sometimes. There have been a number of amazing moments since then, but you get the gist. So moving on from documenting and monitoring. After I got through all of the stuff about visual, and it gave me the self-check routine, I gave it a little bit more information. I said, here are the results of my UPSIT, which is the smell detection test. It's the scratch and sniff that I did make in another video. Maybe that was the second one. I think it was the second one in the series. The scratch and sniff test that measures reduced sense of smell that I've now taken twice and will be taking on a regular basis through PPMI. So I uploaded my results from that, and also the results of my cerebral spinal fluid from the lumbar puncture that I had with the PPMI study. And again, all of my results I discussed in detail in the video just before this one that I think was called something like Living with Your Test Results. So I gave it some more data. I said, now what do you think? And it says, well, now you have 3 key markers. You have the REM sleep behavior disorder. You have a reduced sense of smell, which put me in the 10th percentile. And then an abnormal cerebral spinal fluid. That result was either normal or abnormal. There either was or was not the presence of alpha-synuclein proteins in my cerebral spinal fluid. There should not be, and there was, which means it was an abnormal result. I also had a reduced DAT signal. That is the measuring of hormone in a specific portion of the brain, a dopamine hormone in the specific portion of the brain. And all of those things together say, okay, that puts you in what researchers consider a high likelihood prodromal phase of a synuclein-related condition, Parkinson's disease, Lewy body dementia. Well, I knew that. So it means individually, each one of those things is nonspecific, but together that combination of things makes it a highly predictive cocktail, I guess, in research terms. So if you are also having those results or similar results, then you would be in that category too. And this is why I want to equip you to do your own research and put your own data in there, because your mileage may vary. I'm sharing with you my mileage because this is my forum for documenting what's going on for you, for me, for my family in the future. Here's where all the data is, and HIPAA be damned. So what it means is I am exactly what studies like PPMI are looking for. They're trying to identify people who are symptomatic like me, but don't have clinically diagnosable symptoms yet. What they're now coming to believe, and I certainly do believe, is that I'm very early in the disease stage. I already have the disease in a very early stage, but I don't yet have a diagnosable version. So I do not have Parkinson's disease. I do not have dementia with Lewy bodies, but I do have a neurological abnormality that is very highly associated with developing these at one point or another. So I asked it to compare Parkinson's and Lewy body, like which direction am I likely going in? I have come to believe, and I think this is fairly common belief, that these are actually the same disease. They are just manifesting in different ways. So Parkinson's disease will develop motor symptoms first and perhaps cognitive symptoms later in the game, if at all. And dementia with Lewy bodies, of course, will manifest with cognitive symptoms first and may or may not develop motor symptoms depending on individual circumstances. With dementia, early visual processing changes will happen earlier, possible hallucinations, fluctuations in attention rather than the physical symptoms. This is why I'm currently leaning in the direction of thinking I am more likely to develop dementia with Lewy bodies than I am Parkinson's, because there is a complete absence of motor symptoms. I could be wrong. We don't know. That's the way it seems to be shaking out for me. So the monthly self-check form is especially useful for noticing changes and progression and may help me get a clearer picture of that at some point in the future. And some of the things that self-check is asking me to do, they test me for when I go in for the PPMI study as well. Another thing that it mentioned is the things that can influence your own future. So, right after what's happening and how fast is it going to progress, and I will talk a little bit more about that later, is what can I do about it? Are there things that I can do? So your biomarkers are what they are, but your level of physical activity, specifically weight resistance training, has a very strong evidence for having a protective and a preserving influence over motor symptoms. It's the only thing that has been shown to be clinically significant in helping fight against the motor symptoms and even the cognitive symptoms. Physical activity, specifically weight resistance training. I tried that for a while. I am exercise averse and have been my entire life. It's unbelievably challenging for me to do. So I bought a vibration plate as a way to get around that. I'm trying to go for walks after dinner. Am I good at that? No, I'm a pretty sedentary person. Making art requires me to sit or stand in one place for a very long period of time. I'm not doing myself any favors with that. Cognitive engagement. There, I do feel I do a lot of research. I do a lot of artistic design. I keep my brain engaged as much as possible. And for me, that's more important. I'm not saying I'm doing it right, I'm doing me. Sleep quality is especially important with REM sleep behavior disorder. And again, when you have the disorder, that can be really difficult. Some of you are managing that with medication. I am not far enough along that path where I feel the need to intervene in that way yet. I do take a magnesium supplement that seems to have made a difference in how deeply I'm sleeping, but I also have an overactive bladder. So I am up most nights. I would say 90% of nights, I am up every 2 hours, no matter what I do, in order to empty my bladder. And there's just nothing I can do about that. But I do go right back to sleep and I do wake up feeling rested. I do maybe 3 times a week, I do have a brief afternoon nap. I don't feel that my sleep hygiene is bad. And I'm not in a place where I feel like I need to intervene with that further. And then general health, taking care of your cardiovascular health, your inflammation levels, just your overall, like take care of yourself. I am taking more supplements now than I ever have in my life. And there will be a separate video. Some of you have actually requested that, and I will do it. A separate video about supplements. And I'm not sure where I'm going to go as far as medications, because, you want to be careful on the internet who you're taking medical advice from. And I don't know very much about the meds that are being used at this stage of development, which is mostly where I am dealing. But I sure can talk to you about supplements, and I will make good use of the AI while I am doing that. So, exercise, stay mentally and socially active and healthy. Don't become a shut in, which some of us can have a tendency to do, and I have done for periods of time in the past. Monitor, 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 just knowing that, just telling your brain, hey, I'm doing something about this. Journaling, monitoring, things like that. If you take it out of your head and put it onto a paper, you can actually tell your subconscious mind, look, I did something. You don't have to keep spinning on this because I've done something. Relax. Okay. It's being dealt with. It's something that I learned when I spent 3 years as a grief counselor at my church. I was trained in a particular program, and one of the things that we encouraged during the grieving process, and let's face it, when you get a diagnosis like this and you're looking at the whole rest of your life and how things have changed so dramatically, there is a grieving process. You are grieving what you thought your life might look like as you get used to a whole different picture. Whether or not that's actually ever going to come to pass, we kind of can't avoid that feeling of everything just changed. And that is a grieving process. And when we grieve, our brains are stuck in a place that says something's terribly wrong and we need to do something about it. So journaling is one of those ways there. It takes it out of the hamster wheel in your brain and it puts it on a page. And then when you read it back, there's like a loop, and your brain understands that action has been taken and it can interrupt that spin out cycle. So that's my Pop Psych 101 encouragement for you for today. So the next thing that I uploaded to take the conversation one step further, I did a full battery of neuropsychological testing. My neurologist ordered them, and that was a baseline. Since I told him that I was more concerned about the development of dementia, okay, let's get a baseline. And this was, I think it was 2 visits, and each visit was a few hours, where I went through all of these different standardized tests for measuring cognition from a neurological perspective. And it resulted in a report. And I was able to upload that report into the AI and say, what do you think about this? So it said, well, it says that the findings remain largely within normative limits and do not currently meet the criteria for a neurocognitive disorder. So that's always good news. I do not have a cognitive impairment diagnosis at this point, which is exactly where you want to be at baseline. So, okay, now I've given it all my data. I said, all right, listen, let's get down to brass tacks here. What is the current statistical probability that I'm going to develop Parkinson's disease or Lewy body dementia based on my test data? And what is the time frame? That is the question that we all have. We all want that answer. I was not expecting any kind of answer as concise as my question, but I want to talk to you about how the AI handled that. Okay. Here's the response that I got. Based on the combination of findings that you've described, your risk of eventually developing a clinically diagnosable synuclein disorder is, unfortunately, substantially elevated above the general population, but the timing and specific outcome remain highly variable. And that's an important thing for you to remember. One of the things that amuses me is the personal tone that ChatGPT can take. So the next sentence was, I want to be careful here to distinguish the research statistics from individual prediction. Thanks for that. No one can tell you you will develop Parkinson's in X years. No one can tell you that. Anyone who does is not being truthful with you. Please hear that today. What we can do is we can look at studies of people with your exact biomarker constellation, love that word, and my current risk profile puts me in this category that's called prodromal synucleopathy with biomarker confirmation. So prodromal, I don't have clinically diagnosable symptoms yet. A synucleopathy, I have the presence of alpha-synuclein protein clusters in places where they should not be, mucking up the works, resulting in reduced dopamine production and biomarker confirmation. So the presence of the alpha-synuclein proteins in my cerebral spinal fluid, the reduced sense of smell, the DAT scan results, the REM sleep behavior disorder. Those are all biomarkers, and I have the full complement of them. So with REM sleep behavior disorder alone, the long-term studies show that I have a 70 to 90% eventuality to develop a synuclein disorder over the next 10 to 15 years. That's if I only had REM sleep behavior disorder and no other symptoms. So when you add the DAT scan abnormalities, that increases my conversion probability, and it usually shortens the timeline. Then I have the alpha-synuclein biomarkers in my cerebral spinal fluid, which is currently one of the strongest biological predictions. And that puts me in a likelihood of converting. It bumps it up to 80 to 95% lifetime probability. That is a sobering number. I'm not going to lie. When I read that number for the first time, I just kind of sat here and swallowed hard a couple of times. Not that it was a surprise to me, but when you look at it right in front of you, I mean, you can run, but you can't hide. It was basically the feeling that I got. So reassuringly, ChatGPT said to me, that sounds frightening, but the timeline matters enormously. Here are things I want to share with you, and I actually highlighted some of these things and put them in red because I want to give hope, because we need hope. Most likely time frame. Within 5 years, I have a moderate probability of developing some measurable clinical signs. Within 10 years, fairly high probability of meeting the criteria for one of these clinical syndromes. Beyond 10 to 15 years, well, many individuals will eventually convert if they live long enough. But here's the crucial nuance. Please listen closely here. Conversion can mean several different things. For some people, conversion means a subtle tremor on one side of your body, mild stiffness, slight bradykinesia, muscles moving without your permission or control, or minimal need for medication over years. For others, it might mean an earlier cognitive or visual involvement. And for some people, it might mean that you remain high functioning for a very long time, despite your diagnosis. So you've finally met the criteria, but your quality of life hasn't been measurably interrupted. And another thing to note is that even with my combination, which, like I said, full complement, People in my category of the population are most likely to benefit from disease modifying therapies, neuroprotective trials, and biomarker guided intervention, because researchers can now identify the process before major neuron loss occurs. That is exactly why I'm participating in the PPMI study, which, by the way, if you're not in the study, PPMI originally stood for Parkinson's Progression Markers Initiative. And they were looking for people like me to try to understand what was going on at this very early stage. Well, they just recently announced that they've come far enough after, I think it's been about 15 years that this study's been going on, that they've changed what the moniker actually means. And it now stands for something like Parkinson's Preventive Medicine Initiative, because they are moving in a direction where they're already beginning to develop some therapies and some neuroprotective trials to kind of move in a direction of, okay, now we understand it enough that we can start to try to do something about it. So if you're not already in that study and you meet the criteria, I think the only criteria that you need in order to qualify for the study would be a diagnosis of REM sleep behavior disorder combined with a diminished sense of smell. Those were the two criteria I met in order to be invited to join. It is so worthwhile. And it's another thing besides monitoring your own progress that kind of takes you out of yourself and gives this whole thing some kind of meaning and keeps you out of why me land. It keeps me out of why me land. It keeps me out of my own head, and it makes me feel like I'm actually doing something worthwhile with my life and with this diagnosis. I will be making a video soon. I finally got permission from PPMI to actually make a video that goes into great detail about exactly what participating in the study is like, what happens when you show up at clinic, and what kinds of testing you go through, and what my personal experiences were with it. So that permission has come through. It's going to take me a while, but it might be a couple months away. But that is my intention. The next thing that I talked about with the ChatGPT is that it was telling me timelines, 5 to 10 years, 10 to 15 years. And I said, but 5 to 10 years from when? From the onset of the symptoms, from a specific diagnosis? Where are you measuring from? And it says, okay, first it applauded me for asking such a great question. And basically it said, the statistics usually mean when people first were identified as having REM sleep behavior disorder, or when they entered longitudinal studies like PPMI. But biologically, because of my markers, I am likely farther along on the continuum than most people with just REM sleep behavior disorder. So it's saying my clock probably did not start with my DAT scan result or when my REM sleep behavior disorder was diagnosed. When I went in for the sleep study, I'd been having these sleep talking episodes for about 3 years already. My sense of smell disappeared a couple of years before COVID. So maybe COVID started at the end of 2019. I would say maybe 2016 or 17, I started noticing it. So is that where it began? It's saying it could possibly have begun maybe years before I ever detected anything and started putting the pieces together. So where am I? Well, no one can know. But I'm probably not at the very beginning anymore, is what the AI is saying. However, I'm also clearly not clinically converted in any kind of major way. And it's letting me know that the middle zone can last for a very long time. Here is a word of hope that it offered me in wrapping it up. Many people with my profile remain functionally normal for years. So I'm about 17 months beyond my initial diagnosis with a neurologist that sent me spinning. That's 17 months plus maybe a few years. So if I'm several years down the road already, I'm not noticeably different now than I was 17 months ago. That's encouraging. Many people with my profile develop mild clinical findings gradually, often beginning with subtle unilateral, one side motor signs or autonomic changes. And I am noticing some autonomic changes like some respiratory and sinus symptoms, the overactive bladder, things that are not, part of my voluntary nervous system that I was considering were age related, and they may be. So again, there is no way to really separate those things or to know for sure. And importantly, ChatGPT is assigning importance to this. Diagnosis does not equal disability. Well, certainly I know that. Someone may technically meet the criteria for Parkinson's disease while still living independently, exercising, traveling, creating, functioning cognitively well. Then I put this in much larger text and put it in red and highlighted it in yellow. And I want to put this on a t-shirt. And this is my biggest word of encouragement for you today. Averages are not destiny. Averages are not destiny. Whatever the numbers say, whatever's putting that lump in your throat, whatever's keeping you awake at night, whatever's keeping your mind spinning, what you're reading online does not mean that this is be all and end all for you. Averages are not destiny. Individual variability is enormous. It's enormous. You are you and nobody is you, and nobody is going to have the progression you have. And that is very likely why we are so frustrated and confused when we do research, because there is not a neat little package that you can fit in. There's no box you can hop in along with the rest of us and say, we are all in the same boat. The boat that we are in together is the one that says we need to figure this out. And that's what the PPMI study is doing. And that's what the support groups are doing with information sharing. Mostly Facebook is where I'm finding those groups. And you can just go in and put in your symptoms. If you're not there already, you can just type in RBD or REM Sleep Behavior Disorder or Parkinson's if you have motor symptoms, and you will find support groups. I want to wrap up today by just talking about, I've given a little bit of mention to some videos that are upcoming. There will be a video coming up on how to keep your spirits up, fighting against anxiety and depression, working your bucket list, things that you can actively do to combat depression and anxiety. And because one of the things that we're dealing with this particular neurological profile is a diminished dopamine production, that is going to have an effect not only on cognition, but also on mood. And rather than throw medication at it, which I am, after years and years and years of being on various psychological medications, when it was so popular to do so in the 80s, they did me no favors whatsoever, and they almost took my breath away from me, very literally. I'm not a fan. But there are things that you can do to keep your head in the right place, and I encourage you all to be doing that. This is scary territory. It really is, and there are days when I don't win, and there are days that you won't win that battle against anxiety and depression. But I will do an entire video that talks about things that you can do and to encourage you there. So that is coming. I will be making a video about how to plan in the midst of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but there are some things that we can plan for. And these are the kinds of things that we tend to put off when we don't have an incentive to pay attention to them. My hair's gray, so it's time to start making sure all of the affairs in order, or all of the finances in order. Do the right people know what they need to know in an eventuality when I am suddenly unable to speak for myself? Have I put the right documents in place? So I'm going to be talking about that in great detail. I won't give away all that juiciness yet, but I've got a lot to say in that area. I mentioned that I was going to be doing something about supplements. That's coming up. That's a whole separate video. And also my experience with the PPMI study. I don't know what order those are coming up in, but they're all in here. They are all going to be aided by ChatGPT at this point, because that's what's been holding them up to date, is just not having the time to sit down and do the deep dive and pull all the research together. But the AI makes that much more easy for me to do now. So I'm hoping there will be more soon. I am going to be going back up to New York for the PPMI study at the end of August, and then I'm going on vacation from there. So I don't know how much I'll get done between now and then. I may wait for the second PPMI clinic visit. So that might be in the fall before I do that video, so that I can compare the first visit with the second visit and what my experiences were, because I did have some interesting ones and some things that are noteworthy that I'd want to share. I would love to hear your comments and other suggestions that you might have about things that you would like to hear me talk about. If you have in any way benefited from or found value in anything that you've heard here, that is the reason that I am doing this. Please tell me about that in the comments. I would love to know. Pop over to the website and pick up those forms if they will help you. Usually I don't do this because I am not in any way trying to monetize this podcast, and I am not doing this for likes or clicks. But if you like this video and subscribe to the channel, that helps the algorithm and it helps other people find this channel and would make it available to a greater population of people who might be needing or wanting this information. So for the sake of public service, I am asking for you to like and subscribe, even though I detest doing that in my videos, but please do. I would love to hear from you. I want to know how this is reaching you and how it is hitting you and what it is doing in your life and what you'd like to hear in future videos. I want to thank you for joining me today. I want to wish you all the very best of everything. Keep your head up high and know that there is hope and know that we are not in this alone. I am with you, you are with me, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Till next time.